This is the video for 1-8. An equation is a mathematical sentence that uses an equal sign. So for example, if I say 8x equals 16, that is an equation. An open sentence is an equation that contains one or more variables and may be true or false depending on the values of the variables. So for example, if I say 8x equals 16, that is an open sentence. A solution of an equation is a value of the variable that makes the equation true. So in my example, 8x equals 16, when x equals 2, this equation is true. And so 2 is a solution of the equation. So in my first example, 24 plus 18 equals 20 plus 22, we would say that this is true because 42 equals 42. But in the next equation, we would say this is false because 56 does not equal 54. But an open equation, we would call this equation open because we do not know if this equation is true or false because we do not have an assigned value for this variable. Now, it's true we can go ahead and find the solution of the equation. We can solve for the variable x, and we can find the value of x that would make this equation true. But just looking at it without an assigned value of the variable, we don't know whether this equation is true or not because we don't know the value of this term. And so you would say open. It is true or false depending on the assigned value of the variable, and we don't have an assigned value of the variable. So it is open. Okay, so go ahead and do these on your own and tell me whether these equations are true, false, or open. And I went ahead and solved them for you. The first one is open, the next one is true, and the last one is false. Again, we call this open because this could be true or false depending on the value of y. Now we can solve for y and we can find the value of y that would make this equation true. But without an assigned value of y, we cannot say whether this equation is true or false because we do not know the values of these terms. We do not know the assigned value of these terms. Okay, so that was just a lesson. It's really a vocab lesson on do you know what the term open means. The next example, identifying solutions of an equation. Is x equals 6 a solution of the equation 32 equals 2x plus 12? So in other words, when x is 6, is this equation true? Well, what do? We have to plug in the value 6 in for the variable x, and we have to solve. And when we do so, we find no. X equals 6 is not a solution of this equation. So go ahead and solve the on your own. Is m equals 1/2 a solution of the equation 6m minus 8 equals -5? Go ahead and hit pause. And yes, m equals 1/2 is a solution. Okay, now let's go ahead and write some equations. The length of a box is 2.4 times the width. The length is 54 inches, and so what is the width? Whenever you have these types of equations, read it all the way through first, and then go back and write down what it's saying line by line. The length of a box is 2.4 times the width. So that means L equals 2.4 times W. The length is 54 inches. So that means this is my equation that describes this situation, and the value of my variable L is 54. So then I can go ahead and I can plug in the numerical value 54 in for the variable L. And when I do so, I find that it tells me 54 equals 2.4 times W. So then I just have to solve for W. $22.5. So the width is 22.5 inches. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause and do the on your own. Okay, and the answer is 3.5 inches. I'm going to move on. If you have any questions, you can email me. Using a table to find a solution. Okay, now what I'm about to show you right now is super impractical. However, it teaches a very good concept, and it really helps to cement understanding of the input-output concept. It also helps you understand how the change in one variable affects the change in another. It helps you understand this dependent-independent variable situation. And so for this section, and this section only, I do want you to solve for your variable using a table, okay? So this is what I'm going to do. I have my input n, and I have my function 5n plus 8. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what is the value of n that will give me an output of 48. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just create some values for n, and I'm going to solve. So what happens on this first line? When I input 0, my output is 8. When I input 1, my output is 13. When I input 2, my output is 18. Okay, well I can stop right there and I can say, I got a pattern. Every time n goes up by 1, my output is going to go up by 5. So continuing that pattern, I can say 18, 23, 28, 33, 38, 40. Oh, right there. So that was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, coincidence. I stopped at exactly the right spot. Okay, lined paper would really help here. However, what I'm doing is I keep going up by 1, and my input goes up by 1 and my output goes up by 5. And once I find that pattern, I can just continue the pattern. And I find that when n hits 8, my output is 48. And so then the answer is 8. Well, how would I check that to make sure I did that correct? I would just plug in 8 for the value n and do the math and make sure that that works. And so, and let's go ahead and do that just to make sure that's going to work. Okay. And so that's what I want you to do just for this section while we really cement your understanding of this input-output concept. How does my change in one variable affect my output? How does it affect the change in the other variable? How does a change in one variable affect the change in another. Okay, so do the on your own. And this one is a little tricky. So pause the video and try to figure this out. And if you can't, don't get frustrated. Okay, so I want to work this out for you. So I have my input P, I have my function 25 minus 3P, and I'm trying to figure out what is the value of P that will get me an output of 55. Okay, well let me just go ahead and start plugging in some values for P. I input 0 and I output 25. I input 1 and I output 22. I input 2 and I output 19. All right, I'm going to stop right there because I got a problem. I'm going the wrong way. I'm trying to get to 55 and I'm going the wrong way. So let me switch it up and let me think, all right, well wait a second, what happens if I start inputting negative values? Remember, order of operations, -3 times -1 needs to be done first. Okay, that's better. Now I'm going the right way. Let me do one more just to make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah. So what's happening is, and again, I was underlining this part to make sure you catch the order of operations there. Now I'm going the right way. So what's happening is, every time I go down by 1, I'm going up by 3. So I can continue that pattern. There it is, 55. Again, lined paper would be very helpful. Looks like that one was -10. So my value of P is going to be -10, and you can plug it back in to double check. And so when P is -10, this equation is true. And again, I promise you, I won't make you do this all year. Just for this section, I want you to really get a good feel for this input-output. Okay, so go ahead and watch the second video for 1.9 before you start working on your homework.